I would say, one of probably the most important milestones for Peace Parks 2024 has been partnerships in terms of accelerating impact towards our 2030 target and the 30 by 30 goals. And there's a couple of highlights. I think one of them that stands out is these co-management agreements that we're signing with governments and communities in some instances, where it's about what do we need to collectively achieve on the ground that really matters. Peace Parks Foundation and the government of Malawi signed this 20-year agreement to co-manage Nikavwaza. It's an incredibly important park from an ecological perspective, both of those areas. We signed the agreement with the government, but this year now, having constituted the trust and having the trustees starting to have their first meetings and going through the process of getting this, it's called the Nikavwaza Co-Management Trust. And it's fascinating because on the trust, it's not only Peace Parks Foundation and the government, represented by the Department of National Parks, but it's also a local government. The communities are themselves represented. Having this oversight body, which is really inclusive of all the key stakeholders in and around this protected area, functioning at this oversight level and providing this strategic guidance to a management team that then professionalize park management and park development, is really a model that we think has got a lot of potential for scalability and replicability. We've also now starting to work with the Zimbabwe government in Mana pools and also as a co-management partner. And although it's very early days, the building blocks of what this partnership will look like is slowly coming into place. And it's been extremely productive to work with the Zimbabwe government and to start with this journey of creating, again, an entity, create the Mana Pools Ecosystem Trust, and establishing the same building blocks like Nikavwaza or Sioma Ngwezi. The incredible partnership that we've been developing with Conservation International, a US-based organization, and working together on some real meaningful interventions. And so the Herding for Health program is about restoring these land use management practices of rotational grazing and herding cattle based on science on a grazing plan to optimize productivity of the land, and then obviously the health of the cattle improves. At the moment, the program is operating in 7 countries already, and we are already working on improved rangelands of 1.5 million hectares. Tembe Elephant Park belongs to the local Tembe Traditional Authority. And Chief Tembe reached out to Peace Parks Foundation as well as Ezemvelo KZN Wildlife, and they've invited us to see if we cannot, as Peace Parks, partner with them on the same model of integrated co-management, creating a special purpose vehicle to help then professionalize the park management in a partnership basis. So a couple of months ago, we then signed an agreement with the community and with Ezemvelo KZN Wildlife, where we said, let's explore the feasibility of the development and management of Tembe Elephant Park through this co-management model. What is important though is that it will be the first co-management agreement that will be signed between an NGO community and a provincial conservation agency in South Africa. And always when it comes to developing protected areas and restoring protected areas, it's quite intensive in terms of it's costly to build these protected areas up, and it takes quite a long time for them to generate sufficient revenues to cover their own costs, if at all. So to have the private sector part of that and investing into an initiative like that is really critically important as well. One of the highlights was working with the communities between Limpopo Park and Bani National Park and developing a land use plan and having the district signing off on the land use plan, and which will ultimately lead to formalizing some of these corridors, was also a very important development this year. And you can see the bigger picture emerging and the importance of not only having these parks in isolation, but having the whole ecosystem functioning so that you can ultimately have areas like Kruger National Park that has too many elephant, find the ecological release and balance taking place into Mozambique and into these protected areas on the Mozambican side. You can actually see the movement patterns. So that balancing of the ecosystem in the bigger vision of peace parks of connectivity, having anchor protected areas, working with communities to formalize linkages, ecological linkages to these protected areas, and getting that balance coming back in a more natural way is certainly, it's happening. It's reality and it's taking place as we speak. In 2025, what we do see is continued emergence of realization of partnerships from private sector, governments, communities to work together for the greater good and to accelerate impact. We're looking at bringing in more rhino to Ezemvelo National Park. We're looking at unlocking the first tourism opportunities in many protected areas, doing what we've been doing throughout the region, but just trying to get more and more partners on board. And to do that, we've launched a Partners for Nature Fund. And the fund has been capitalized at $40 million. The purpose of the fund is to bring more parties into the landscape. So 30% of the funding is going to be dedicated to attract partners to come into the landscape and specifically focus on not only protected area management, but also on working with communities in these landscapes, in particular improving their livelihoods and building resilience for communities. Anton Rupert, our founder, was always very fond of saying without money, conservation is just a very nice conversation. So without support of the donors that supports peace parks and conservation and development in general, none of this would have been possible. And there are many private individuals and governments, bilaterals and multilaterals and foundations and trusts that really makes all of this possible. So always just to express our sincere gratitude. And last but not least, I mean, the team. An organization consists of its people. And it's just fantastic to have such an incredible team of people that's so professional, dedicated and committed and gives their 110% every single day. And I suppose what makes it easier for us is that we are doing it because we believe in what we do.